Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. I want you to picture this for a second. It's December 2024. A 22-year-old engineering student from Pune, let's just call him Rohan, gets a call he has been waiting literally 3 years for. TCS, offer letter, 3.36 lakhs per year. His mother cries, his father calls up every relative in the family. He posts a photo on LinkedIn with the caption, "Grateful and excited to begin this journey." 412 people like it. And then, he waits. January comes, no joining date. February, no joining date. March, an email finally arrives saying, due to business requirements, your onboarding has been deferred. April, May, June, 7 months pass. And that offer letter? It just sits there in his downloads folder like a receipt for something he never actually received.
And the craziest part? He is not alone. Nearly 200 Wipro recruits publicly flagged the exact same thing this year. Deferred, delayed, ghosted. Ghosted by a company that literally sent them an official offer on company letterhead. But here is what makes this story truly, truly devastating. TCS, India's absolute largest IT company, cut 23,460 jobs in FY26. And it's not because they're losing money. No, their revenue is actually growing. They cut those jobs because for the first time in the history of Indian IT, a company with more business than ever needs fewer people to do it. Why? Because AI is doing the work.
Now, to really understand why this moment is so massive, you have to understand what the Indian IT industry actually meant to an entire generation. Back in the 1990s, American and European companies had all these software projects they needed done cheaply, and India had millions of engineering graduates. So companies like TCS, Infosys, and Wipro built a model that honestly changed everything: the mass fresher hire. The model was so simple: hire thousands of fresh graduates, train them internally, deploy them on client projects, and bill in dollars. And it worked spectacularly. To put it in perspective, in 2001, India's IT sector employed roughly 280,000 people. By 2022, that number exploded to 5 million direct employees, with another 10 to 15 million people in related roles, basically anchoring India's aspirational middle class. At the absolute center of this massive economic engine was just one single idea: mass hiring at the entry level. You didn't even need to know much going in. You just needed a degree and the ability to clear a campus exam. For most of Indian engineering, this was the reliable, foolproof plan. But guys, that plan is collapsing. And here in 2026, it is collapsing really, really fast.
Let me give you the actual numbers, because I really want you to feel the sheer scale of what is changing right now. In FY22, which was the peak year, India's top IT companies hired 270,000 fresh graduates combined. 270,000 people in a single year, all handed their very first professional opportunity in tech. Now flash forward to FY26, this year, and that number has dropped to 170,000. That is a 37% drop in just 4 years. And it's accelerating, it's not slowing down. Take TCS specifically. The company that was literally the largest campus recruiter in India for 2 whole decades cut 23,460 employees in FY26, while simultaneously announcing plans to hire only 25,000 freshers this year. Compare that to the 40,000 per year they were hiring just 3 years ago. It's a staggering shift.
But the deeper number, the one that should honestly make every single engineering student in India sit up straight, is this one from EY, one of the world's largest professional services firms. They found that entry-level IT roles in India have already declined by 20 to 25% due to automation. Think about that. This isn't some future projection. This isn't a prediction. It has already happened. The jobs that 600,000 freshers a year used to fill are, in very large numbers, simply gone forever. They haven't been moved offshore. They haven't been outsourced to another country. They are gone because an AI system now does them faster, cheaper, and entirely without the overhead of salaries, healthcare, provident fund contributions, or 6-month training programs. And you know, here is the part that most coverage of this whole story gets totally wrong, or at least kind of incomplete. When people hear AI is replacing IT jobs, they immediately picture a literal robot sitting at a computer doing a senior software architect's job. But that's not what's happening yet. What's happening right now is quieter, it's less traumatic, and in many ways, it's way more devastating because it specifically targets the entry point. Just think about what a fresher actually does in their first 2 years. They write boilerplate code. They run manual software tests. They document code that other people wrote. They handle basic maintenance tickets. They do basic data mapping. Well, guess what? Every single one of those tasks is exactly what current generation AI coding assistants and automation tools do faster, cheaper, and way more accurately than a junior human employee.
Aman Chadha,
who runs AI education programs and has worked with major Indian IT firms, hit the nail right on the head in a recent interview. He said, and I quote, "Earlier it was different, but now much of what freshers start with, testing, basic coding, and maintenance, is exactly what AI is getting good at. So you're not really building everything from scratch anymore, you're reviewing and refining what the tools produce." End quote. Honestly, that one sentence is the entire story. The basic, foundational work that justified hiring 270,000 freshers every single year, it is being automated out of existence.
The corporate math here is just brutal, but it's also very simple. If one mid-level engineer armed with AI can do the work of 6 juniors without it, a company that previously needed 600 people for a project now only needs 100. The revenue stays exactly the same, but the project headcount drops by 83%. Profit margins, which, let's be real, were already pretty healthy in Indian IT, suddenly become extraordinary. And those 500 people who aren't hired, well, they simply never get an offer letter in the first place.
This is exactly what is happening at a massive scale. And it's exactly why campus hiring is collapsing even as these company revenues continue to shoot up. HCL Tech CEO C. Vijayakumar actually said it on an earnings call with extraordinary directness. His exact words were, "We have released a fair number of people due to productivity improvements. Not all of them are immediately redeployable, as the demand for some entry-level or lower-end skills is now being met through automation." Let's translate that corporate speak, right? It means, we let people go because AI can do their jobs, and we just can't retrain all of them fast enough to move them into something AI can't yet do.
Now, I want to stay with the human side of this for a moment, because it's so easy to let the macro data make you numb to what it actually represents. The human toll here is absolutely staggering. Following the rules no longer guarantees safety. Just consider what it means to spend 4 grueling years in engineering college, secure that golden offer letter, have your entire family's investment strategy totally validated, only to receive a deferred joining email cryptically citing business requirements. Infosys fired hundreds mid-training after quietly making their assessments harder. Oracle revoked over 50 campus offers at IITs and NITs less than 3 months before joining. Students who had confidently turned down other opportunities received emails canceling job offers they had been holding on to for months. It is, as one jobs platform called it, the angriest jobs market in 5 years. The emotional texture here isn't just anger, though. It's a deep, deep disorientation.
So why is this happening structurally? Well, there's this concept in Indian IT called the talent pyramid. It's really not complicated. At the bottom, you have this huge base of entry-level employees, the freshers. Right above them, a smaller layer of mid-level engineers. Above them, even fewer senior architects. And at the very top, a tiny number of client-facing executives. This whole system worked flawlessly for decades because the base was cheap, the middle was productive, and the top was super profitable. But right now, that pyramid is inverting. Companies are waking up and discovering that the massive base, the layer doing all that routine work, is precisely the layer that AI automates the most easily. The top of the pyramid is where the real value lives now, and that part cannot be automated. So companies are shrinking the base and fighting tooth and nail over a limited pool of people at the top, which ends up compressing that middle band entirely.
And if you look at the salary data, the picture gets even starker. TCS and Infosys gave average hikes of just 5 to 8% to their broad employee base this year. That is barely above inflation. But AI-specialized engineers at those exact same companies, they're negotiating 18 to 35% in-role hikes. Average salaries for new AI and cloud roles are landing somewhere between 25 and 65 lakhs per year. Meanwhile, traditional roles are paying 8 to 18 lakhs. Think about that. 2 people, exact same engineering degree. One took the time to learn AI tools and cloud architecture. The other learned Java and manual testing. The salary gap between them is now 2 to 3 times, and it is widening every single quarter.
And this builds into an undeniable, massive macroeconomic issue. Here is where the story gets way bigger than any individual company or any single career. India's IT sector is not just an industry. It is literally the structural foundation of an entire economic class. Niti Aayog, the Indian government's policy think tank, published a report projecting that in a business-as-usual scenario, headcount in India's tech services sector could fall from 7.5 to 8 million people in 2023 down to 6 million by 2031. That is a net loss of 1.5 to 2 million jobs over 8 years in an industry that used to be the single most reliable source of quality employment for educated Indians.
Saurabh Mukherjee, who is the founder of Marcellus Investment Managers and honestly one of India's most respected market analysts, was even more direct about this. He said,
The number of people required to work in IT services in the world of AI will be orders of magnitude lower than where we are currently. Notice his phrasing, not somewhat lower, not gradually lower, orders of magnitude lower. That is a prediction so stark it almost sounds irresponsible to say out loud. But Mukherjee has said it because he absolutely believes it's true.
Now, India's IT minister actually acknowledged that job disruption from AI is a real challenge earlier this year. And his solution? Upskilling and reskilling. Look, this is the standard government answer, right? And it's not wrong exactly. Upskilling matters enormously. But let's be totally honest about the scale of what upskilling actually means when we are talking about millions of people. The core assumption here is that people currently doing routine coding and manual testing can magically learn machine learning and complex cloud architecture fast enough to fill these new growing roles. But analysts at Oxford Economics have pointed out that much of the workforce actually lacks the foundational skills to shift into these complementary roles, hindered by weak overall education outcomes. It's a very polite way of saying that a huge chunk of India's existing IT workforce is not currently equipped to compete for the roles that are actually growing. The disruption is moving like a bullet train, and the reskilling programs are basically walking.
All right, so let's shift gears and look at what is actually growing, the honest opportunity.
Because, look, this explainer would be totally incomplete and honestly quite unfair if it only described the doom and gloom. Because there is genuine opportunity here too, specific, real, and totally accessible to people who are willing to move quickly. Tech openings in India actually rose 9% month over month in March 2026. The market is growing. It is just growing in the wrong direction for traditional skill sets. Get this. Only 13% of India's 119,000 active tech openings recently have been fresher roles. The other 87%, they require experience in AI-adjacent skills. The strongest, most stable hiring market right now isn't TCS or Infosys, it's GCCs, Global Capability Centers. We're talking about companies like Walmart, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Apple. They are building massive engineering teams in India. They pay significantly better, and they offer technically demanding work that simply won't be quickly automated away.
So what are the roles actually in demand right now? Based on all the consistent data, it is all about specialization. We're talking AI and machine learning engineers, cloud architects, DevOps, cybersecurity, and domain-specific data scientists, meaning data science applied directly to a specific field like banking or healthcare, rather than just generic data entry. The talent shortage in these specific categories is actually so severe right now that companies are actively poaching people from each other at crazy premium prices. This is the honest opportunity buried right inside the crisis. The crisis is very real for the traditional path for sure, but the opportunity is incredibly real for people willing to forge a different one.
So what should you actually do right now?
If you are an engineering student or an early career IT professional reading the writing on the wall, here is the most honest, actionable advice I can give you. Stop treating your traditional offer letter as a destination. Treat it as a temporary starting point while you retool. First, absolutely use internal learning platforms. Every major Indian IT company right now is incentivizing internal certification in AI and cloud because they desperately need those skills. Second, expand your target company list dramatically. Target GCCs like Walmart Global Tech and JP Morgan, alongside Indian SaaS companies. They are hiring at scale and are far less likely to defer your joining date. Third, build visible proof of your skills. A GitHub profile or Kaggle account with real projects showing AI integration is increasingly way more valuable than a BTech from a mid-tier college. Fourth, if you're mid-career, apply for internal AI project teams immediately. You need to get in front of it. And fifth, and honestly most importantly, do not wait. The single most dangerous position you can be in right now is assuming this disruption is somehow exaggerated. The transition is real, it is permanent, and it is moving incredibly fast.
Let me end with something true, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. The Indian IT industry is not dying. Revenues are growing, profits are growing. India's share of global technology services might even expand because AI is making Indian engineers so much more productive. But the Indian IT industry as a source of mass employment, as this giant system that just automatically absorbs 600,000 engineering graduates per year into stable careers, is permanently changing. The pyramid model is breaking. The era of the mass fresher hire is not coming back. And it's not because of bad management. It's simply because AI has eliminated the economic rationale for the base of that pyramid. The routine work is automated. Period.
What replaces it is a smaller, more skilled, more highly paid workforce that can work alongside AI rather than be replaced by it. That 22-year-old sitting with an offer letter in their downloads folder, waiting 7 agonizing months for a joining date, is not a victim of some temporary glitch. He is the visible, human face of a structural transformation in one of India's absolute most important industries. And he deserves to be told the truth clearly rather than just reassured with empty platitudes. The traditional path is broken. So I leave you with this. Are you going to wait for the system to fix itself, or will you start building the AI skills the market actually values? Subscribe to The Explainer, because this story is nowhere near over.